Field of 68, After Dark. All right, welcome to After Dark. I'm your host, Jeff Goodman. I got Mike LaTulip and Justin Jackson with me here. And we didn't have a huge night tonight, but we got plenty to talk about, including Tennessee snapping their 3-game losing skid. Are we worried about Louisville, or was it just a one-off without Mikel Brown Jr.? How concerned are we about Darryn Peterson's injury? Is UConn all the way back? Another double-double, of course, for National Player of the Year frontrunner Cam Boozer. And I have news on 2 impact guys who could return Saturday. But let's start off, guys, with the game of the night, which was Louisville going to Tennessee, and Rick Barnes losing 3 straight for the first time since his first season in Knoxville. Tennessee ends up winning pretty much wire to wire on this one, Mike. Did this say more about Tennessee and their ability to guard, or did it say more about Louisville without a top 5-ish pick and just not being able to run their offense the way that they normally do? Because this is a team that could score with anybody in the country, and it looked like, again, they were inept for the most part without Mikel Brown.
Yeah, I think it said more about Tennessee, and we'll get to the Louisville piece of it. But to me, this was a no doubt must win for Tennessee, and it's not, again, like the ramifications as you look towards March, or it's the season's not over if you lose this game, but just for your collective confidence and what dropping 4 straight would look like as SEC play approaches, and you certainly can't drop a game when a team is missing such an important piece like Mikel Brown. And so I just thought they executed at a super high level tonight, whether it was they picked on Louisville in ball screens. When Louisville wanted to put 2 on the ball, Gillespie found ways to get into paint. He rejected screens. The switching defensively that Tennessee did, especially with Akpara, to limit Conwell from seeing consistent daylight. He still knocked down threes before for 13 from 3. I think this version of Tennessee in a wide open SEC can compete. This version absolutely can. And you got a good Nate Amen game. You can see when they put this all together, Jalen Carey's been fantastic. I think he's been one of the better stories in the SEC so far this year, just what he can add to this team, even off the bench tonight. So this was a get-right game for Tennessee, and they needed this one in a big way.
Justin, a good matchup, too, for Tennessee with those bigs going up against a Louisville front line that, let's face it, we're still a little bit worried about. I know Sananda Fru's been pretty good, but tonight I think he finished with like 5 points and 4 rebounds.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of echo what Mike said. Like, it definitely says a lot more about Tennessee, but I can't necessarily let Louisville off the hook just because Brown was out. Like, the way that Tennessee dominated this Louisville team, especially on the inside, especially with the way that the landscape of college basketball is this year, with kind of the top dogs having those legit bigs inside and controlling the paint. For me, I'm still iffy on Louisville. Obviously, you bring back, Mikel Brown comes back, and you've got one of the best duos in the backcourt in him and Conwell. But then it's just it's that question mark is just a little too big for me to really just throw in everything with Louisville. But once again, it was a game that Tennessee had to win. I'm sure these practices leading up to this game was not fun at all. And you just kind of saw it. They put everything together. I mean, obviously, I loved. I mean, my biggest takeaway was Carey. I mean, the way Carey dominated inside. I mean, it felt like nobody had an answer for him at all at 6'7", but he freaking controlled everything. And then, to Mike's point, obviously, he's kind of somebody that I think will get better as ACC or SEC play kind of gets going and continues to go throughout the season. But yeah, I think Tennessee did exactly what they were supposed to do and needed to do in this type of game. And, we'll see once Mikel Brown comes back kind of what Louisville looks like as conference play starts.
Yeah, Mikel Brown's been playing with this back injury for a little while here. decides to sit this one out, rest it, understanding the value of obviously this being a long season for them. They do have a ton of guards. I mean, that is the one thing. They have a bunch of guards, but they don't have a guard that to me can command the game like Mikel Brown can command the game. And he's not a guy either who gets rattled easily. So I think in this setting, he changes the game completely. I'm not going to say they're going to win it, but I think it would have been a game down the stretch. But again, 42 points in the paint, for Tennessee. They've got big upon big, and they're without Cade Phillips for the rest of the year. And I love Cade Phillips, but it doesn't even really affect him that much because, they start this kid, Dwayne Brown. He doesn't play a ton, but I think the more you see of JP Estrella, man, like that kid, if he stays healthy, he's going to be a problem. But Mike, the big concern I have still for Tennessee is, Nate Ament, number one, like what's he gonna be on a night-to-night basis? Today he was pretty good. He's been up and down so far this year. He's had to adjust to the physicality of the college game. Where do you see him in January or February?
Well, I think he's going to turn a corner as a player when he turns a corner defensively. And because what he's seeing right now is, Illinois did it. Louisville tried to do a little bit tonight. Teams are, because at times they play Carey and Akpar together, that slides him to the three. Teams are trying to attack him. And I think Tennessee obviously likes his size and his height. So sometimes they'll switch him onto bigs. I mean, it happened with Tomislav Ivicic, and he just posted him. And they had to send a double, and then Illinois ended up able to attack him out of those doubles and attack Tennessee out of those doubles. But you just want to see his confidence bloom a little bit. And again, that'll start defensively just from a physicality standpoint, but also him just kind of taking his time when he gets some of these mismatches. I think he's trying to – he plays very upright, one. And so I think he needs to find a way to use his base better. Like, he's a really big dude. And it's not like, you've seen other guys come in that are even more like thin than he is. Like, I don't think he's like, he's not like KD freshman year thin. He has a little bit more size to him, I think, than people probably give him credit for. Now it's just playing like that. And so that's the difference, I think, for him, because the reality for this Tennessee team is, and I'm not saying this because he's on the show here with us, but they need like a Justin Jackson. They need a guy that's what they're missing on the wing. They're a wing short. Whether it's a guy that can space the floor or just a guy on the wing that has like a little wiggle to him. I mean, that's and if you don't have that, or if no one emerges there, now it's got to be Jacoby Gillespie, and it's got to be Nate Ament. So that's going to be fascinating to see, I think, monitoring here going forward.
So, Justin, he mentioned you, and as I'm thinking about Nate, I am thinking about you a little bit as a freshman coming into Carolina. You had some dudes with you, right? Your Marcus Page, who was older, he helped you, but you came in with some expectations. You weren't the biggest, strongest dude in the world. You came from being homeschooled. No, I'm being real here. You weren't as thin as he is. Yeah. And he had a couple inches on you here. But do you see anything out of this kid as you watch him? You must have some feel of like, kind of what he's going through.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because there's so many freshmen in college basketball this year that's just ready right away, right? And it's, for me watching it, it's that part is impressive. But when I watch Nate Ament, like, I see a legitimate freshman in college basketball, right? That comes in. Will he be a really good NBA player? Yes, I think he's going to, like Mike said, he's going to turn a corner at some point, and it's going to be, okay, there he is. But right now, like, there's just some evolution that's kind of going on, whether it's getting used to the strength of these guys, whether it's the speed, whether it is, like, as a freshman, I remember going back, like, as a freshman, everything's moving so fast. Like, you're not playing at the speed that you're normal to playing at. Like, there was a play in the in this game against Louisville where he had an obvious mismatch. I mean, it was probably an 8-inch mismatch. Got in the post and just rushed it, right? Like where in high school he would have taken his time, gotten to exactly where he wanted to get to. And so right now, that's just kind of what I'm seeing. Like I'm not worried about him at all, but I'm not necessarily saying that he is going to be this superstar for Tennessee right away because he is just more in that freshman mold right now. So, um, I think the tough part is like where Tennessee goes, it's going to be him and Gillespie. Like that's the issue, right? So where he kind of continues to improve and get better and see different areas of the game where he can kind of affect the game, that's where Tennessee's going to go. So, hopefully for them, that corner is right around the corner, and it's not come March. But I think that's kind of what I'm seeing with him.
Well, I think he's thinking too much. I think he's thinking too much, and you could see it with him of like, what do I do? Right? Do I go, like especially in Vegas, he had one game where he was terrific and physically he wanted the physicality. And then the next game he looked completely lost. And I think, like you said, you made a great point. We're seeing so many of these guys that are ready, that are producing at such a high level that aren't running that roller coaster right now, that aren't riding that roller coaster up and down. And he is, and part of it is, I think, getting used to the physicality of college basketball right now.
I think he has a unique task too, because you're playing for Rick Barnes. And so, different from some of these other freshmen, like, dude, you gotta go out there and guard. Dude, you gotta go out there and rebound. I mean, it's not to say that these other freshmen don't have to do those things, but it may not be as much of a cornerstone and a pillar like it is at Tennessee. And so there's so much focus elsewhere, I think, for him. And I think that's why the offensive game has suffered a bit. In addition to, again, like, sometimes he plays the 4, sometimes he plays the 3. And like that, the 3-4 difference, especially at that level, is depending on who's guarding you, the matchups, that changes game to game. And so that's a lot for a freshman. So I want to acknowledge for Nate that, he's in a different spot than some of these other guys. So, and I will say too, I mean, I want to go back to, Tennessee took care of business tonight, and Tennessee won this game playing Tennessee basketball. And I think that should be really encouraging here moving forward. Because again, you look at, they don't have really another test until SEC play. And so to get this one the way you did, and we'll get to the Louisville side of it, but to get this one the way you did at home, I think it's got to be a major, major confidence boost for the team, but also for Nate.
Yeah, they needed it. They needed it coming off the 3 straight losses. They shot it well, and Louisville didn't. But I think Louisville, to me, without Mikel Brown, I just don't think there was that guy setting these guys up for easy shots. I thought a lot of them were hunting. They were taking off balance shots. They just didn't look like they were in sync from literally the first play of the game. Tennessee's pounding it down low over and over and over. And then Louisville's coming down and playing their basketball, which is play fast. But Justin, like, play fast without your point guard, without the guy who's had the ball in his hands 80% of the time. It's hard to all of a sudden throw. And I like Kobe Rogers, but he's a great backup for Louisville. He is not a starting point guard that can play 30 minutes a game.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you take, your best player, first of all, but you also take somebody who, like you say, sets everybody else up, not even necessarily from playmaking, but the attention that Mikel Brown has to have in a game, right? Now you see kind of as the game, obviously he finished with 22, but Conwell, the way that he was having to come off screens, right? Like there was a body on him at all times. When you enter somebody like Brown into the picture, you can't necessarily put all of your attention on that because so much gravity is going to be going in a different direction. So I think that's the toughest part is, yeah, we can talk about the size of the team, right? Which is a big question mark. But the other question is, as the season goes on in a big time game in the ACC, what happens if Mikel Brown goes down with foul trouble? What happens if, he goes down, Lord willing, it doesn't happen. Well, what happens if he goes down with a rolled ankle in a game, right? Like, what does this team look like? And unfortunately, the way they looked tonight was just kind of discombobulated. Like you said, Rodgers is a great guy to come in and give energy minutes and set guys up whenever he's in there, but he can't do it for 20, 25 minutes in a game, right? Like that's just not what he is or who he is. So, I think once again, if he's in this game, it's a totally different game. But there's a few question marks as far as who else can kind of be that guy to kind of take some pressure off of both of those guys.
LaTulip, their front line. Is it good enough to, again, I think they can win 4. I don't know if they can win 6 with that front line. I like Frew, but man, like, he didn't do a whole lot tonight. And again, I get it. It's Tennessee's bigs, man. You're not going to face a lot of teams that can
Hands
rotate
full.
in those guys. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, look, we talked about this the last time you and I were on, Jeff, talking about Louisville. But again, I'll mention it again. There's teams that when it comes to the NCAA tournament, the matchup doesn't matter. And it's just if you play your game, you have a good chance of advancing. If you don't beat yourself, you have a good chance of advancing. Justin's been a part of those teams. But then there's teams that are more matchup dependent. They can advance if the matchup's right. And I think that's where Louisville falls. And again, that's not anything against Louisville. That's where the majority of teams in college basketball fall. But there's a select elite group that the matchup doesn't matter. They just have to take care of business. And I will say, the front line, here's the tough part, right? Because when you look at Pryor or Roos or any of these guys, you play a certain style and you play it for a reason. And so if you want to say, hey, we need to get bigger or play Roos at the 4 more or Pryor more at the 4 more, you're taking away from what makes Louisville, especially on the offensive end. So the point is, like, what are we trying to sacrifice or what will we sacrifice? And to me, I was worried about the rebounding. It really wasn't much of an issue tonight, 35-30 on the glass. But the rebounding, when I say they need better rebounding, like I said against Arkansas, it's not just, hey, get bigger guys in there. It's, Conwell, McNeely, Woolley, like, you got to go. It's got to come from the guards. So that's what I'll say about the front line. But for Brown, like you saw the absence of a star tonight. And the 7 of 34 from 3 is not, indicative of how this Louisville team shoots the basketball. But that was a lot of quality of shot. And you had Kelsey have to run more set actions tonight than he's had all year. Conwell, I think I had done this earlier in the year, but his first 28 threes of the season, 21 of them were assisted by Brown Jr. So, and a lot of them are just, it's transition, it's pace, it's not set actions for Conwell. And now you had a lot more sets, and the table setting component with Brown is real. Obviously, he's the one that sets your pace. He gets these guys their open looks, creates mismatches in transition. But talk about a play finisher. I mean, how many times was Louisville up against the shot clock tonight? Whereas when it gets to 7 or 8 seconds and you got Brown Jr. in there, it's like, hey, flip it to Brown Jr., get a high ball screen, let's play out of it, let's get a good shot. I mean, they were up against it. So that's why I can't hold this performance too much against Louisville. But I do think, like Justin and Jeff, like, your concerns are valid, because this is what we talked about after Arkansas. It was like the rebounding, and they look small sometimes. And when you face these teams, you go back and look at the Final Four last year, the Auburn, Duke, Houston, Florida, like those types of front lines, can you hold up? Can you be good enough offensively to hold up?
Well, one team that I know has a chance to win 6 is the UConn Huskies. I feel pretty good saying about that. They got off to a slow start. First few minutes, I'm like, man, this could be a game. Butler jumped on them. They started scoring. I'm like, what's going on with the Huskies? Then all of a sudden, they just shut off the water on Bizjack and some of their other guys, and they ended up winning by 19. I thought that this was one of the first times that we've seen UConn whole. Everybody solo ball, making shots from everywhere, from 3, driving it, mid-range, everywhere. Terrace Reed looked closer to himself, and I'm told he's still only about 70, 75% healthy right now. Braylon Mullins, the freshman, starting to show some consistency. Silas Demery locking down defensively. He was the one who really got on Bizjack and made sure he didn't do anything. But Mike, you with me that like this UConn team, man, when they turn it on, I'm not sure there's anybody else in the country that can play with these guys.
It's their depth. I mean, that's just the revolving door of guys that they can bring in there that make an impact in different ways. I mean, you see what the impact Jaden Ross makes off the bench. I mean, 4 offensive rebounds, a block, a steal. He ignites a lot of what they do in transition just with the way he runs. But this UConn team, and Jeff, we talked about this a few weeks ago, but I wouldn't doubt them being, the potentially the number 1 overall seed at some point. That's just they're gonna stack wins in the Big East. Let's be honest.
But it's gonna be hard too because there's not a lot of resume wins in the Big East. So on one hand, you're right; they could like run through the Big East, and St. John's is the only team you see them like standing up to. But the other part of that is like how many resume wins are there out there for them where some of these other teams are going to have so many.
Well, I think that's part of what comes in with the committee is like, this is a team that won it back-to-back 2 years ago, right? So like I think that factors in. But you mentioned the sloppy start, Terrace Reed with the turnovers, Butler's feeling good early, and then UConn to me just continues to have what's reminiscent of those 2 title teams, just that killer instinct that they did not have last year, and they beat themselves too much last year. Especially defensively. So we saw them take away Bizjack, take away Ajayi tonight. But adding in Braylon Mullins, it's so much more than the shooting. The dude is just a winning player. His competitive spirit, his IQ, he's additive defensively. And then most importantly, I think he takes pressure off of Caravan. He takes pressure off of Ball. Jaden Ross is a cutter, slipping out of screens. And then how about Silas Demery? Like the pressure he takes off of him just to be a guy that can set the table and focus on being the ball hawk that he was tonight defensively. So, the depth of this team, the balance of this team, I think is what makes me bullish that they can certainly be a number 1 seed come March.
Justin?
Man, fellas, I've been since the start of the season, UConn was like at the top of my list. And I get more and more excited the more that I watch them play. And the reason I say that is they really, truly haven't put it all together yet. Like, truly. Like, you look at this team, like Solo Ball had a career high tonight, right? Caravan's going to give you exactly what he gives you every single night. But then you look at Terrace Reed, the turnovers that he had, right? Like, it's crazy. Honestly, that's one thing. It's crazy how much less effective he is when he dribbles the ball probably 3 or more times as opposed to just getting it in probably 2 dribbles. But like you look at a guy like Silas Demery, right? Like to your point, he did exactly what he was supposed to tonight, set the table, defensively locked down Bizjack on the other side, but he still doesn't look fully comfortable offensively, right? And so when I watch that, and then you've got guys like Jaden Ross, Stewart didn't do too much tonight, but you've got guys like that coming off the bench. Once all of that really starts to merge and everybody is playing at the top of their game at whatever role it is that they are, this team, they've got size, they've got point guard, they've got shooting, they've got playmaking shot. Like, it's hard for me. Obviously, we can talk about the Michigans and the Gonzagas and all those guys, but it's hard for me not to put these guys, in the top 3 in the country based off of just what I've seen so far. So I don't know. It's scary. And to your point, Mullins, I hadn't really seen too much of him, coming into the year. And then now kind of going back and seeing some high school stuff and now seeing how he's come back from his injury and just fit right into what they got going on. That's not even talking about the fact that Hurley is the coach. So I'm all in on the Huskies.
No, they're scary. They're scary. I mean, Butler was scoring at a high clip too coming into this. And again, Butler had 11 points in the first 3-4 minutes. And then what they get the rest of the way? I mean, not many. I mean, it was tough after that. And that's where I think this UConn team, they can win games with their defense. They'll eventually be able to win them with their offense. They can win them now with their offense. but even more when Demery gets comfortable, right? When he becomes more of a threat scoring the ball, which I remember seeing him last year in person at Georgia. And again, he was a lead guy at Georgia. He's still trying to figure out his role with this UConn team. And to be honest, I kind of like how he's just taking a little bit of tonight, especially a role of, I'm just going to lock Bizak up and I'm just going to distribute the ball for the most part and get everybody shots. And you know what? Eventually, he's got so much around him, Mike, that he's going to get so many open shots eventually just because you're going to have Reed down low. You're going to have Mullins on the wing. You're going to have Carabin on another wing. You're going to have Solo who can shoot the hell out of it. Like, how do you pick your poison with this team eventually?
I mean, you already see the Mullins gravity taking place. I mean, he came off a screen on the baseline in the second half, and it's just classic. I mean, you see it with Steph all the time. These guys that run off the baseline, where you have the guy guarding the screener that feels like he has to help out, and then you got the guy trailing, so two guys jump out at Mullins. Ross slips to the basket, ends up getting an easy bucket out of it. And then just as a point guard for Demery, it makes your job so much easier because the reads become more open. You're not having to throw passes in a phone booth. You can at least based off the slips and Carabin does it well. Ball does it well to add a third guy out there that does that, and that is like a point guard's dream. And so again, but most importantly, like, it allows him to narrow his focus. Whereas I thought earlier in the season, Demery, it's like you're trying to figure out, what your game looks like in this new offensive system. And I talked about it last year at Georgia. Like, he conceded a lot of possessions with pull-ups, 15 to 17 footers. That is a no-no in this UConn offense. So that he had to get out of his system. So to Justin's point, yeah, like they're still figuring this out. I mean, Hurley mentioned after the game, like Mullins busted a few plays offensively. We haven't mentioned Ryba, but how many teams would take him as their starting five in America?
340 probably.
Yeah, I mean, like the 4 blocks, 7 rebounds, doesn't have to do too much, but is just skilled enough to be a ball mover, to be like a next action guy. It's the roster's freaking deep, man.
It is. All right. When we come back, we're going to tell you why this Kansas team, I don't think they're there. Without Darryn Peterson, their best player again tonight, and they struggled a little bit against Towson. We'll also tell you, is North Carolina's frontline duo the best in college basketball? Next, After Dark.
As you know by now, we have teamed up with BetMGM again this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we will have special offers for Field of 68 fans, including same-game parlays, best-in-class live betting, and daily odds boost. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code FIELD to get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. You download the BetMGM app, you sign up using bonus code FIELD, you deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use that bonus code FIELD when you sign up. Make this college basketball season one for the history books. Make it legendary. And don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code FIELD and get your $1,500 first bet offer today. If you're not a member of the Field of 68's On3 community, make sure to go check us out. Get access to all of Jeff Goodman and Rob Doster's written content, including coaching carousel breakdowns, info on who is and isn't entering the transfer portal, insider recruiting information from none other than Joe Tipton, X's and O's analysis of all the teams in college basketball, and access to our message board community. A 7-day trial costs you $1. The Field of 68 on 3. Get the scoop.
All right, welcome back. After Dark, I'm Jeff Goodman here with Mike LaTulip and Justin Jackson. We are presented, as always, by BetMGM. And Kansas, without their star again, without their star freshman, Darryn Peterson. He's missed a bunch of time with a hamstring injury. Now it looks like it's a quad injury that kept him off the court the last 2 minutes in their last game. And again, they won tonight against Towson, guys. But it wasn't easy for them to score without Darryn Peterson. And Bill Self, a day or so ago in his press conference, did address the injury, the latest injury to Darryn Peterson. Have a listen.
But obviously he had some, not hamstring, based on what I was told, but some quad cramping, there, which to me, you guys saw the game, was evident that he wasn't moving at the pace that he's got to move at, the way people are going to guard him and that stuff. So it was obviously bothering him.
All right, Justin. You ever had hamstring issues, quad issues? You think these are related? He's missed a bunch of time with the hammy. Now he's out with his quad tonight. What do you make of all this?
Well, I was playing basketball. I didn't have enough muscle to cramp. But it's just weird to me. I'll say it's weird. He's out for a while with a hammy, which obviously everybody knows you don't mess around with hamstrings because that can linger for a long time. But then the way that he pulled himself out in that game against NC State, to me, isn't cramping, right? And I'm not sitting here saying that Bill Self and Kansas, they're not telling the truth. But cramping isn't something that you miss a whole game for. And so I'll go back to like Darryn Peterson's usage when he's on the floor. He has to be as healthy as he possibly can. And so it's not like he's just a role player that you can put back out there on the floor and he can kind of take some possessions off. Like when he's on the floor, everything is circulating around him. Like that's just what he is for this Kansas team. And so I don't know. I'm hopeful that it's not something that's, serious that will keep him out for an extended period of time. But like obviously for this Kansas team, we saw it tonight, like for this Kansas team to be as good as we think they could be with Darryn, he has to be on the floor because he just gives that, once again, like Mike has talked about a little bit, like the gravity that he has on the floor. There's probably nobody in college basketball truly that brings the type of gravity that he has. So everybody else around him is so much easier. So hopefully it's something he can get back out there on the floor quickly and help this team out.
Yeah, I just don't know what you do, Mike, because you've given him a month off already. He literally missed a full month with a hamstring injury. And now, again, he comes back and he's out again. I don't know if it's not time to start thinking like, hey, you know what? Maybe I got to protect myself here and just shut this down. I hate to say it because I love the kid. I think he's the number one pick. But again, you come back, you keep doing this, and you jeopardize your long-term potential health. Like it could be a serious injury, number one. And, your draft stock a little bit. You want to protect that as well.
So I'm trying to think back when you look at the top draft prospects, right? Kyrie had the foot, right?
Yep.
And he was, I think it was December 4th to the first round of the NCAA tournament that he was out.
Yep.
Zion had the knee. But the soft tissue stuff is interesting because that's something that you don't see that often from these type of guys. I mean, Embiid had foot as well or back or something when he was at Kansas.
He had a little
soft
bit
tissue stuff is. Yeah, the soft tissue stuff is, I think, the only one that I can think of, and there's definitely probably other ones, but Lonzo, probably not the best example if you're thinking about like Peterson long term. But Lonzo, according to LeVar, had popped his hamstring in their NCAA tournament game against Kentucky back in whatever that was, 2017. So I don't know. I mean, at what point?
If you believe LeVar, sure.
I mean, that's a whole nother conversation. I won't get into that. But No, I mean, like, at what point do we start viewing the Kansas team without Darryn Peterson as the Kansas team? That right? Like, I think we know what Darryn Peterson can be when he's on this team, and what this team's ceiling can be, which I think is like, that's a Final Four ceiling for this team. But I also don't want to discredit who they've been without him, because the difference from last year to this year is like, this Kansas team is tough as shit. They are. Like, it starts with Council. He picks you up 94 feet. Down list, Trey White's been tremendous. And I think this team has changed from last year to this year. Like, they look more like a Kansas team, just with bigger wings. Badunga truly playing at the 5 spot. Tiller's been, I think, awesome. Just those two as bigs. So yeah, I mean, I don't think without Darryn Peterson, it's not as much of a fall off as what we saw with that Louisville team. Is what I'll say. But like Justin said, it's an odd deal. Not only just because of him pulling himself out, all that stuff, but the soft tissue stuff in general. You don't see that often.
Yeah, I mean, they were already a team that was a little bit shot challenged, even with Darryn Peterson. Now you look at him and you're like, all right, Melvin Council is not going to be going for 10 threes ever again. I think we feel confident in saying that. No, I think ever again is probably the proper terminology without. I think this Kansas team, yeah, they're going to get in the tournament. We know that with Bill Self and the fact that they can guard it at a high level. But again, Towson, I don't want to say they pushed them, but in the first half, they kind of did. They matched their toughness. They matched them on the glass. Like, there's not a ton of offensive options there for Kansas without Darryn Peterson. So I could see this being a one and out deal if they don't have Darryn Peterson. They get to the tournament and whoever gets him is licking their chops because they got him without Darryn Peterson. Now, again, with Peterson healthy, yeah, I agree with you. I think he's that impactful that he can make him a Final Four team because he can solve so many of their issues offensively, not just with what he can do, but kind of what Justin was saying earlier about Mikel, like just his gravity. I'll use the word that you guys love to utilize here. His gravity allows everybody else to be better, to get open shots, right? So I hope he's back. I think he'll be back. But I think it's one more time, guys. I think we're going to get one more shot here with Darryn Peterson, and then you're going to see him shut it down if something else happens. I think he gives it one more chance, and I don't blame him if that's the case. I don't blame him, and now it's different than it used to be. Justin, when if you get hurt back then, your circle was you, your family, Roy Williams, and the coaching staff. Now you add to that an agent, and the agent is going to get involved here. And that changes the complexion of a lot right now as the decision-making process moves along with this one. All right, let's move on. Duke and Carolina both played tonight. Both kind of got tested. We'll start with the Blue Devils because they were tested a little bit more than your Tar Heels, Justin. 16 first-half turnovers. 16. I mean, it was crazy. Lipscomb was beating them for much of the first half. Now, Cam Boozer was still dominant. At the end of the day, it's like I said this before the year, guys. Every game, you could just mark down a double-double. Pretty much, I think I said 20 and 10. I might have said 18 and 9 before the year. Now, 26 and 13 tonight. First of all, let me ask you both this. Is this Cam Boozer's National Player of the Year trophy already, Justin? Should we hand it to him as long as he stays healthy? Is this his a third of the way through the season? Can anybody challenge him?
I don't see it. I truly don't see it. And I think the reason I don't see it is because of the situations that Shire puts him in throughout the games, right? Like the situations that he's in, whether it's playing out of the pocket in the pick and roll, while also, heck, we were talking about it before the show, while also having the spacing and the other guys in the right spots for him to make certain decisions, or running actions, and then him getting the ball in the post to where he's not going against a double team every single play. Like, he's just put in situations where all he has to do is go dominate, right? And his teammates know that. Like, I think that's another thing too. You don't see anybody out there really mad that Cam Boozer is the main guy and the focal point of everything going on. So the numbers he's putting up in of itself is, you can easily say, yes, somebody's, he's going to have to lose it. But just the way that Duke plays, I don't see his numbers dipping at all, especially once you go into ACC play and you start having some of those games where you're playing against Boston College and, some of
Hey,
those
no
guys at the bottom
disrespect
of the
to the
ACC.
Eagles. What are you
Hey,
disrespecting my BC Eagles?
respectfully, if he puts up 30 and 20, I'm not surprised. But I
Hey, you
don't
know how hard it
I
is.
don't
You
see it.
played at the Conti Forum. All right. You know how tough that place is to play.
Once again, respectfully, I wouldn't be shocked if he averages 25 and 13 for the rest of the season, which is, you got to give him. And they're gonna be in, if not the Final Four, heck, they're gonna be in the conversation the entire year too. So he's gonna be on one of the best teams as well. So yeah, I would say so.
All right, LaTulip, tell me I'm wrong here. Tell me I'm wrong and just giving him the trophy today, as long as something catastrophic doesn't happen to him.
Well, we know that this award really is won in, like, I don't want to say won, but the narrative starts in November and December. Like, no one comes out in late January and February and it's like, well, hang on. Like, we knew right from the beginning last year, it was Cooper Flagger, Janai Broome. And by the end of it, it was Cooper Flagger, Janai Broome. And so if anybody's going to enter the race, it's got to be soon. So I Yaxel, if Michigan continues to win at the level they're winning, he could be in the mix. The issue is, like, you look at, and I think Duke still has some balance to them, but like Michigan, Iowa State, Arizona, UConn, like there's almost too much balance there for you to probably pick anybody that's going to be head and shoulders above to win National Player of the Year, which is why I think it's going to be Cam. And to Justin's point, you talk about just the positions that Shire puts Cam Boozer in, and he mentioned like some of the short roll stuff and making him the fulcrum up top as as they kind of play through him, and even like the buddy ball he plays with Gongba. But how about that Michigan State game when Boozer picks up his fourth foul and Shire goes zone for the last 8 minutes of the game? Because if he didn't go zone, Jeremy Fears was going to seek him out and damn sure get him his fifth foul. So just having a coach that can even just think that way schematically, where it's like, dude, we're going to set you at the bottom of the zone so that we keep you out of harm's way. And it was the difference in the game in getting a road win. So all of that, I think, bakes into why I think he's got to be the front runner right now. And I think, like Justin said, the dominance that he's going to have in ACC play, I think will only bolster his case.
And he also plays for Duke. That doesn't hurt either, because people tend to talk about Duke quite a bit, especially when they have a really good player like Cam Boozer. Are they good enough to win the whole thing? I picked them before the season, Justin, to win the whole thing because of Cam Boozer and Caden Boozer, because I've never seen those guys lose a game. I don't know if the supporting – I expected more out of Isaiah Evans, number one, at this point. Expected a more consistent scorer than he's given them. And number two, I still don't feel great about their point guard situation. I thought Caden Boozer would have that spot wrestled away from Caleb Foster right now, and their offense would be humming, and it's not. So am I crazy to be a little bit worried about this Duke team other than Cam Boozer?
I would put him in the same. I would put him a little bit more above Louisville, but I would put him in the same box as far as the question marks still are kind of, I need to see going through conference play. The only reason I would say Duke is ahead of Louisville is because, like Mike said, the way that they run a ton of things as Cam Boozer being the initiator or the trail guy who is kind of setting everything up. Um, if Isaiah Evans is more consistent, right? Like tonight, he had a solid game. He had 16, hit some shots down, in the second half down the stretch. If he's consistent in just knocking down shots and being a guy that can take somewhat, some of that attention off of Cam Boozer, and if Caleb Foster and we'll say Caden Boozer is able just to be solid, I think something that people aren't really talking too much about because obviously Cam Boozer is taking up a ton of the headlines. Like that front line that they have isn't a bad front line either, right? Like you've got him and then you have a guy off the bench in Malik Brown, who was a former ACC Defensive Player of the Year, that brings nothing but steadiness to that front line and that this team. So I think having all of that can kind of cover up some of the question marks with the point guard. But Isaiah Evans, to me, has to be consistent. If he's not consistent, then teams are going to be able to zone up more on Cam Boozer and do more things schematically to make things harder for him. But if he is, I mean, they got to be in the conversation for Final Four and, possibly cutting down the nets.
All right, Duke gets a win tonight. It's not pretty. Carolina gets a win tonight. We'll talk next about the Tar Heels. And again, are they in that same conversation as their Tobacco Road counterparts? And again, is there a better front court duo in the country than Visar and Caleb Wilson? Next, After Dark.
As you know by now, we have teamed up with BetMGM again this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we will have special offers for Field of 68 fans, including same-game parlays, best-in-class live betting, and daily odds boost. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code FIELD to get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. You download the BetMGM app. You sign up using bonus code FIELD. You deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use that bonus code FIELD when you sign up. Make this college basketball season one for the history books. Make it legendary. And don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code FIELD and get your $1,500 first bet offer today.
Are you trying to follow everything happening in college basketball? It can be overwhelming. That's where the Field of 68 Daily comes into play. The Daily is your go-to source for recruiting news, game analysis, portal updates, and much, much more. For just $50 a year, you get access to the same information that your favorite coaching staff is subscribed to. Quality content can be hard to find in the college basketball space. The Daily is here to help. Make sure you subscribe today. All right, welcome back. After Dark, I'm Jeff Goodman here with Mike LaTulip, Justin Jackson, and Duke and Carolina both got wins. Neither were overly pretty, but they both got them, and I'm wondering if they were both kind of looking past Lipscomb and East Tennessee State tonight and looking at Texas Tech, who Duke has Saturday at the Garden in New York, and looking past ETSU for Carolina. They got Ohio State in Atlanta also on Saturday, a loaded Saturday this week. Henry Visar goes for 26 and 8 tonight. Caleb Wilson, another big game, 20 and 8. He hit a three tonight. He hit a three, and it looked pretty. Is there a better front court duo in the country? I've been teasing this all show. Justin, is there anybody better than those two?
If we're talking about just a 4-5, it's hard for me to find one. And that's unbiased. That's not me as a fellow Tar Heel. That's unbiased.
No, you're not wearing
not
wearing anything that would show your bias whatsoever right now.
It was a good game tonight. You could throw Michigan, but to me, Michigan's front line is a group. It's not necessarily just a 4-5. But for me, like you've got a guy in Caleb Wilson who I mean, heck, you got to throw him in that number one pick argument. He probably won't, but what he's been doing in college basketball has been somehow under the radar because of Boozer down the road. But then now you throw a guy in Henry Vasar who's taken, to me, a massive leap just in confidence and his ability at the 5 spot. A guy who can step out. Vasar can step out at 7 feet. He can protect the rim. Caleb Wilson, the amount of pressure that he puts on the rim, like anytime he gets the ball, is one of the more impressive things that I've seen in college basketball. So no, I'll dub them the top 4 or 5 duo in the country, just based off of, especially the way they play off of each other too. Like that's another thing, that it's not just 2 individuals, but the high lows that they have, the way they play off of, each other's strengths. I'll go ahead and dub them best 4 or 5 in the country.
So the good news, Mike, before you answer that question, the good news, because the weakness of this team is the perimeter. It has been the question mark, because again, the 4 or 5 are as good as, like Justin said, I agree with him, as good as any 4 or 5 in the country. All signs point to the fact that Seth Trimble will be back this Saturday. That's optimism right now. It's not 100%, but everything is trending towards that way. And he gives them exactly what they need, right? He gives them a leader, a vocal guy, a terrific perimeter defender, a guy who can move the ball and be kind of a secondary ball handler. And to me, I think it changes their team. Not massively, but a good amount. Where do you stand with this team before you get to your answer of whether maybe there is a better 4 or 5? Where do you stand with this team now that Trimble is set to return?
Yeah, I mean, Justin was a part of these teams, but it's great to see like UNC front court domination again. It's in a different way than like Baycott, Meeks, Hicks. They're like the bully you, obliterate you on the glass type style. But I love the blend of skill and athleticism between Wilson and Vasar. And then obviously you mentioned like the reinsertion of Trimble, I think will tie the perimeter together. But for now, like it's been encouraging seeing Kyan Evans be this serviceable. His last 4 games, 16 assists, 2 turnovers. I really like the makeup of this group, and we keep talking about it all the time. Just what a stable front court can do for your floor. What that Final Four looked like last year from a personnel standpoint. Now you bring Trimble back into the fold. I look at perimeter defense as another form of rim protection, and I think he offers that with how he gets into the ball and how he pressures. So. Yeah, I don't know how you couldn't be optimistic if you're a Carolina fan. As far as the front court duo, how they stack up, it's hard because you're saying duo. I think I might have them at the top 2 because like Michigan kind of has a trio. Arizona, I think Arizona probably doesn't get talked about enough. But between Awaka and Krivas and Pete, like that's a damn good trio. UConn obviously has a really solid trio. If you want to throw like Caravan as a 4, Florida I still think has a really strong front court.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, as far as duos go, and the way they complement each other too, I think is what puts them over the top for me.
I got one more for both you guys before we move on quickly to Vandy and 10-0, number 7 in the net. I've asked a bunch of people this. I want to know both your answers on this one. You mentioned Caleb Wilson, Justin. You played in the league. You mentioned Caleb Wilson as potentially the number 2 overall pick, whatever, in the mix. Would you take, if you're an NBA GM, it's a loaded question, would you take Caleb Wilson or Cam Boozer?
If I am of the mindset of NBA GMs, or if I am of my own mindset, which one are we?
Your own mindset. You're going from
you
scratch.
are the NBA GM.
You're the GM.
Because it's hard for me not to look past Cam Boozer and the way that he wins, the things that he brings on a consistent basis, and all of his skills that he has. But at the same time, like Caleb Wilson could be a superstar in the NBA. Like he could be, by the end of his career, he could be a 10-time All-Star. Like he could be one of those type of guys. And that's a tough one. I'd probably lean more towards Caleb Wilson, especially with the way that the league is now as far as positionless. Because Caleb Wilson, at the end of the day, you could drop him down if you wanted to a 3. I think Cam Boozer is still more in that 4 or 5 range. I think once you move him to the wing and having to defend, I think things change up a little bit. So I'd probably have to say Caleb Wilson and give him the nod, but heck, Cam Boozer is right behind him, and brings a lot to the table as well. So I'll give Caleb Wilson just because of the ceiling that he could have.
I think they're both, Mike, fighting in the mix for 3 to 6. Like I think Boozer's not going to go all the way down to 6. I think his floor is probably 4 or 5. Wilson, I think his floor is probably 6. I think DeMonza, to me, I'd be shocked if Peterson and AJ don't go 1 and 2. Again, unless this Peterson thing, just becomes a story all season. But I don't think it's going to be that. Mike, what if I were giving you the same question there?
Yeah.
Boozer or Wilson? Who are you taking?
Boozer. And the reason for it is, and I do agree with Justin. I think Caleb Wilson defensively is so much more toolsy than I think people even realize. I think he has good instincts on that end. I just think, and I think he's a better processor than people give him credit for too. I just think with Boozer, I think we get caught up too many times in like, what's this player's ceiling? What's this player's ceiling? Well, ultimately, like, what's your team ceiling if you have this player on your team? And that's where I go with Boozer, where it's like, he may not be like a 28 a game guy in the NBA, but he can be an 18 a game guy and have a crazy impact because of the optionality you can have in your lineups because of his skill set and because of all the things that he can do. So that's what attracts me to Boozer and really what the appeal is to me in drafting him. But you could see with Caleb Wilson, like just the athletic tools are there. And I think as the season goes on, he's going to get more and more credit for all the other stuff beyond like, hey, how many dunks does he have? And oh, look at another highlight. He's a lot more skilled than people realize.
I got a question for y'all because I think this kind of, as far as the GM question goes, if you're an NBA team, are you a better team if Caleb Wilson is your number 1 guy or if Cam Boozer is your number 1 guy? What y'all's thoughts on that?
Boy, I don't want either of them as my number 1. Not if I'm winning a title.
Right.
I don't want either of them.
But at the end of the day,
if I had to pick
one,
these
guys' floors are 6 and up, they're going to be drafted to be that guy that you're tooling everything else around, right? So if you're a team, are you better with Wilson as your number 1 or Boozer as your number 1?
I'd say Boozer, I guess, but I don't feel I don't love either one of them as my number 1 because I'm not sure Caleb is going to be an offensive threat to give him the ball and go make a play. I think Boozer's got more of an ability to be able to do that. Not a great athlete, but good enough that you can give him the ball and he's still more well-rounded. Again, Caleb's going to be the better defensive player, but I'm going to take the guy that I think is better overall, more versatile in every way. And to me, that's Boozer.
And I think spacing is going to help them both at the next level for sure. Wilson for sure.
Yep. All right, let's get to toast of the night, guys. Who wants to kick us off? Who's got a good one tonight? Or do you want me to kick it off? You want me to start
Kick it
us?
off, Jeff.
All right. I'm going to start us. Man. as the only mid-major in the country that is undefeated right now. There are 7 teams. Only one true mid is undefeated. That's Miami of Ohio. They're now 11-0 after a win at Wright State. Travis Steele is killing it at Miami of Ohio. This year, last year, really good to see. He had a tough go in his run at Xavier, but he is crushing it at Miami of Ohio. And I think, to be honest, I think a high major should look at him again, because sometimes you get a head job the first time a high major, you haven't gone through it at the mid-major level, and you kind of learn from it. I think that's where Travis Steele is at. So Travis, Miami of Ohio, man, hell of a season so far, 11-0.
Defeat my Wright State Raiders tonight, unfortunately.
They
but I will be on the call. CBS Sports,
Nice.
Miami of Ohio at Toledo, January 9th.
That'll be a good one.
But I'll go for my toast. I might have already done this before, but I think I'm going to toast Jalen Carey again.
Okay.
I think I'm going to toast Jalen Carey again. I just love what he brings, man. I'll leave it at that. Jalen Carey, toast.
All right, big boy.
I like it. I'm going to toast to somebody that early on in the season, I think caught some slack because of the position that he was put in. I know for myself for sure. Dylan Darling for St. John's.
Ooh.
Tonight came off the bench, 17 points, 5 of 9, 3 of 5 from 3. I think in the role and the position that he can be best at for this St. John's team. So shout out to him, man, taking advantage of whatever position he was put in.
Dylan Darling. I like it. He's taking some criticism, played very well tonight. All right, thanks for joining us tonight. After Dark. Thanks to Justin Jackson, Mike LaTulip. I'm Jeff Goodman. Stay tuned for the afters next, where I'm going to give an update on Kentucky big man Jaden Quainton. So make sure you stick around.
These my DJ Burns shades I had for.
That was like taking them into the depths of Alaska and just dropping them off.
The first person that's gonna die has got to be one of the black guys. They're not gonna make it to the end of the movie.
That's like asking somebody, do they want to get a prostate exam or a damn gunshot wound?
All right, we're back with the afters. Field of 68 After Dark. I'm Jeff Goodman, Mike LaTulip, Justin Jackson. We're going to hit on a bunch of stuff, but we might even get LaTulip to break down Illinois adding the latest import. I think it's Tony Bilic. Is that right? LaTulip? Did I get his name right? We know?
Yeah, I think you nailed it, Jeff. I think you nailed it.
I appreciate that. I feel good about it. I feel really good about it. Let's start with Jaden Quainton still. Kentucky big man who's been out since injured his knee last year in February at Arizona State. Kentucky struggled without him. Obviously, we know they've had to go with Brandon Garrison and Malachi Moreno. And Quainton has practiced full the last 2 days, guys. Full practice. And they play the Johnnies this weekend in Atlanta. Huge matchup. Pitino, Mark Pope. Obviously, we know the history there with Pitino coaching Pope at Kentucky. Quainton will practice again on Thursday. There is a chance, if everything goes well, that he could play against St. John's. Now, again, it's going to be up to Pope, the training staff, the doctors, all that. But there's a good chance if he's not back against St. John's. I think the game after that is Bellarmine. Then they have Alabama. He's going to be back soon. But again, they haven't ruled out him playing against St. John's on Saturday. So that would be awesome if he came back against the Johnnies in a game of that magnitude. But again, and I ask you guys this, like, how careful would you bring him back against St. John's, or will you just wait it out and put him against in a bye game, Justin, just to kind of, not put him in front of the bright lights, in a huge game that everybody's watching in his first game back in like 9 or 10 months?
As a coach, I want my best players out there, right? Is it smart to put him out there in a game like this? I don't necessarily know. I mean, it is, heck, I'll be at the game. It is on a, it's not a legitimately away game. I think that he could 100% help this Kentucky Wildcats team. So if I'm Pope, I mean, heck, even if it's minute restriction, yeah, I'll put him out there because I think he's one of my better players, just even off the injury. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's a good test.
Mike, the other thing he does, so he gives you a big, strong body. Number one, like a physical man-child of a guy who was productive last year as a freshman at Arizona State before the injury. The other thing that I think he gives you that this team needs desperately, this dude is like the most likable, great energy guy around. And I think this Kentucky, if there's a team that needs that, right? Good energy, smiling, happy, plays hard, all of that, like it's the Kentucky Wildcats.
And I think just having him back there as an anchor, what that does for the rest of these guys on the perimeter defensively. Like if you're Colin Chandler or Lowe or Owe or whoever, like you can get after the ball a little bit more knowing you got that guy back there. And so what's interesting is at Arizona State, like he had such a productive year at such a young age, and he didn't have anything figured out. Like, like the technical components of like good ball screen defense, like he was kind of lost sometimes, but his recovery is just unmatched. He can go track a ball at the top of the square. And I just look at think about how effective Otega Owe is in transition and how many more stops his team can get, runouts, that's huge. And I think that changes things for this team. And whether or not he can, he should play in this game or not, I think if he can go, he should go. Because I would rather have, if things are rusty for him in this first game, and maybe confidence dips a little bit, get the confidence back in the bye game, and then you can go, as opposed to sit him out, things look rusty in the bye game, and now it's like, yeah, you got to get your confidence back in conference play or whatever, whatever the next few games are. So I like rolling them out there, and because it's like the quarterbacks, like when you're going to make a change at quarterback, and it's like, do we want to start him after the bye, or do we throw him in here? They're playing the Chargers, like, well, we don't want to ruin his confidence. It's like, put him out there, because if he does well in that first game, then it's game on. And I think that's on the table for Quaidens, because when you have a big that you're integrating in, it's a much more seamless integration than it is for like a high, a ball dominant wing or a point guard. Like this could be, pretty set it and forget it immediately.
The other thing I kind of like, you put him in against Bellarmine, he's playing against chasing around 6'6", 6'7", 5 man, right? Where at least, against the St. John's, he's going up against guys his size that he's going to be banging against. He's not going to have to chase them out in the perimeter nearly as much. So I kind of like that situation better. I think he'd like to come back against St. John's as well. So hopefully that'll happen. Hopefully we'll get Justin. You'll have both those games down there you're going to, and you'll see Seth Trimble back, and maybe you'll see Jaden Quaintance back, and that would be really cool to have both those guys. Those are two of the most impact guys that we've been without for the college basketball season for the most part. All right, time for the afters, which means we got Dagan Hughes with some questions. What do you got?
It's been the afters for 9 minutes, so we didn't just get to the afters.
All right. Eventually we got to the afters.
Fair. All right, so we'll start with some stuff we didn't get to tonight. So you obviously teased Vanderbilt at the end of the show. So just your guys' thoughts on the Commodores, undefeated still, up there in the net, up there in all the analytics, not just the net. So just kind of your thoughts on the Commodores.
Mike?
Sure. Look, I think I like this Vanderbilt team a lot. I honestly, right now, I think they're in a similar bucket as Nebraska. Just from the sense of like one of the oldest teams in America, and that doesn't guarantee that you're good. But when you have that, because there's Texas is up there, West Virginia is up there. They beat SMU, who's the second oldest team in America. But when you have that experience blended with the skill, the IQ, the toughness, now you see it showing itself in all those different ways that help you win games. I think they're so decisive offensively. I think Byington, just the concept-based read and react system. They don't have ball stoppers. You can't have indecision. They're so connected defensively. I think Duke Miles and Frankie Collins, Tanner, they refuse to get screened. Their defense rarely collapses because of the pressure those guys put on. And so, I think I got a lot of Vanderbilt fans that were in my DMs the last time I spoke about them because I said I was fascinated to see how this team would handle SEC play as a team that's not going to be overlooked, as a team that's going to be hunted. And I think that's still the case because the reality is we talk about all these teams that are up there, top 10 in KenPom or top 15 in KenPom. Vanderbilt, they had a solid slate there in Atlantis, but they haven't been tested to the level some of these other teams have. So, I think there's still some things that remain to be seen with them, but I mean, how could you not be bullish just with the way their style of play and the way they've taken care of business to this point in the season?
I love this kid, Tyler Tanner. I absolutely love him. And again, local kid. We had him on the show a couple weeks ago, and just even keel. I think he's kind of what makes them go. Justin, are you with LaTulip in that, like, you're not quite ready yet to put him in one of those kind of upper tiers, or are you sold on him?
I think I'm with Mike, but probably a little bit underneath him when it comes to, I mean, I love Tanner, I love Miles. Heck, I think Tyler Nichols shooting like 47% from three on like 7 threes a game. And they offensively, they're a fun team to watch, right? Defensively, when it comes to, especially, I keep going back to this because how college basketball is this year, like how the top dogs are set up roster wise. Like Vanderbilt's tallest player is 6'10", and that 6'10" player is somebody that I saw for many years, 3 years at UNC, and that's Jalen Washington, which is a way more finesse, not really a hard-nosed type guy. So a lot of times this team goes to small ball with a 6'7" guy at the 5 position, right? Which, Mike had said earlier in the show, like, if you play a certain way, you got to play that way. You don't want to change up kind of what you're doing. But when it gets into, even though SEC is kind of, I wouldn't say it's 100% as strong as it was last year, but kind of up in the air as far as what teams are legit and what teams aren't. I think that's going to be a real issue for this team as they go through conference play. But at the same time, offensively, the numbers don't lie when it comes to offense. Like, you're averaging 95 points a game. Like, it doesn't matter who you're going against. You're obviously doing something right on that end. So I'll go with Mike, but I'll be a little more of a I don't know. I need to see just a little bit more.
I also need to see, it. And like the stat that I'll give you on Vanderbilt that has me, just in definite wait and see mode is they only get 16% of their shots at the rim, and the national average is 31. So that's like another thing beyond just like the defense. The defense, they actually give up 15% of their shots at the rim. Defensively, but when you go back and look through it, they foul a ton at the rim too. So that's what skews that a little bit. So I wonder if once SEC play rolls around, teams are going to get more shots at the rim. Can they also tilt that up the other way on the offense side?
Dagan, what else you got?
Quickly on that, I just want your answer. No explanation. I think I know what the answers are going to be. More surprising team this year, Vanderbilt or Nebraska?
Gotta be Nebraska. Gotta be Nebraska. Yeah. More surprising? Like Vanderbilt was in the tournament last year.
I know, but they lost a bunch. I mean, they lost Jason Edwards to Providence. MJ Collins is killing it at Utah State. AJ Hogarth leaves. Now, again, I think there's some addition by subtraction there. I do. And they filled those holes very, very well. Obviously, Duke Miles has come in and been awesome as a transfer for Vandy. McLaughlin's been really good coming back and taking a step. Sorry, Dagan, but I would probably – I might go Vandy over Nebraska. I might go Vandy.
No need to apologize, Jeff. That's fine. I just figured everybody would say Nebraska. That's all right. Sticking in the SEC, this was a question we were talking about a little bit earlier in our group chat before the show. What team in the SEC do you guys trust the most?
Justin?
Oh, man. Do we have to pick?
Yes. You got to pick somebody.
Heck, at this point, I got to say, like, Arkansas. Honestly. Like, with what I've seen Arkansas do, and that's crazy to say because they are a wild team at times. Like, but at the same time, in some of these big time games, like they've shown up. Like I'll say Arkansas, but I'm also I think I'm on the outside of probably everybody. I still haven't lost faith in this Florida team all the way.
Yes,
and the reason I say that is because of their front line. Like, you can't have a front line like that, and you can't just dismiss a team that has that kind of front line, like in college basketball. But at the same time, the guard play, the loss of the players, from last year, Clayton, Richards, all those guys, it is a huge loss. But I'm not fully out on Florida yet, but I'll say Arkansas as of today. I'll say Arkansas.
Mike?
I trust, it's tough because as of today, it'll change. But Florida, like that's my pick. And like Justin said it, still one of the best front courts in America. I'm buying the guard play turning a corner. I'm buying them finding more of a true identity offensively. I'm buying that they won't be a bottom 10 shooting team in America. The TCU loss, I don't think will age well, but the other three losses they had, those three teams could end up being 1 seeds in March, and they were in all 3 of those games. So if they, let's say they get 1 of those or 2 of those, how are we talking about Florida right now? I feel like they're just a complete afterthought as defending national champs, and I don't want to dismiss again, like what you lost with Clayton and Martin and Richard is not just like, defensive tenacity and shot making. Like they gave you just some shit to you. That's how they played. And so that's what they have to kind of regain as well. Is just that edge and that bite. And I think, they could have won that game at Duke. They were in it until Jaden Bradley went crazy in the opener against Arizona, and they were right there with UConn. So I don't want. We did the same thing with Houston last year when they started 4-3, and we're like, I don't know, and see it, and then they just ripped off however many in SEC or in Big 12 play. So I'm not riding off the Gators at all.
All right, you ready? LeBaron Filan, Aiden Holloway, Latrell Wrightsell, Amari Allen, Houston Millett. You are not going to find a better 5 guards in the country than what resides in Tuscaloosa. Last I checked, guards win in the NCAA tournament. Now, I don't love their bigs. I don't love them. But I think collectively they're good enough. And, the question I have is, again, are those bigs consistent enough, number one? And pointing to the other 2 teams that we've mentioned, I trust Nate Oates more than I trust John Calipari. Number one. And I don't trust Florida's guards yet. And maybe they'll get better. Maybe Xavier Lee will get there in another month and he'll be a different player coming from the Ivy League and Boogie Flam will be more consistent. Those 5 guards, that is a crew of guards. Nobody can match that group. So I'm going to take Alabama with those guards and Nate Oates. Dagan, you got anything else?
I do. I have one final one from our chat. Mufasa in the chat wants to know, outside of Maryland, back to the ACC, which power conference school needs to go back to their original conference the most? A little fun one to end the night.
Holy cow!
I don't know. Can Stanford and Cal go back to the Pac-12?
That's an easy one.
Right.
I think that's
I mean, all those West Coast schools. You know, give me UCLA, Arizona. I mean, as an Arizona grad, man, like I still can't get used to Arizona in the Big 12. I will say, yeah, Maryland is definitely one that doesn't fit, right? And gets kind of hurt, by that. I'm trying to think of another one that
what's another one for me that maybe this is like just going back to the Blake Griffin days, like Oklahoma in the Big 12. I don't know why that one sticks out to me, but also just as a Big 10 guy, Rutgers, Big East.
Yeah,
like it's just that's another one. Just
say a random one. Notre Dame in the Big East to me always seems to.
Oh, that one too. Yeah, I mean the ACC, all the teams that moved from the Big East to the ACC. I'd love to see Syracuse go back to the Big East.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a really good one, actually. Pittsburgh got hurt. Really leaving the Big East, going to the ACC. They were so good in the Big East. They fit the Big East. And go to the ACC, I think, killed them recruiting-wise, too, because they recruited so heavily in New York. That was their bread and butter. That's why they were so good and tough and whatnot. I think maybe Pitt. That might be the one for me.
Yeah.
So basically, we just want the Big East to be the Big East again. That's basically what I'm hearing.
Yeah. Well, it was the best league in America there for a while when it was the real Big East. And now, right now, we're fighting to get a third team in the NCAA tournament this year. This is kind of it might be the team now. I mean, Butler certainly didn't look the part tonight, but again, nobody's beaten UConn at UConn, even maybe for 3 minutes. 3 minutes.
I'll ask this because this was something that I talked about last year. Funny enough, it was Oklahoma, but I always mention like 10-1, 11-0. There's always these teams right at this point, and my question is always, who's fooling us? Because there's always at least a couple. And I wonder, this is a question for like the Vanderbilt and Nebraska, like, are they in that crop of fooling us? I actually don't think so. Like I think both of them will be firm NCAA tournament teams. Like Oklahoma ended up on the bubble last year. The who's fooling us was Oklahoma 2 years running, last year and the year before. I think they started 10-0 both years, and then went like 10-11
years ago. Old Miss did it under Andy Kennedy years ago, with a non-conference schedule. Yeah, I mean, I think Vandy and Nebraska being two of the final 7 unbeatens, they're not in the same class as the other 5 unbeatens. But are they fooling us? No, I think they're NCAA tournament teams. I just don't think they're NCAA tournament teams that are deep, that are going to go deep in the tournament.
I think you're probably looking more at, like, no offense, Dagan, like the USCs, the Seton Halls, like those 10-1, 11-1s right now that have probably benefited from a lighter non-conference schedule.
Yeah, very true. All right. Well, listen, appreciate everybody for joining us tonight. Not the heaviest. We got some good stuff in. Certainly Tennessee back on track. UConn shows their dominance. Duke and Carolina win. Jaden Quaintance could be back Saturday. Seth Trimble can be back Saturday. Make sure you tune in every night after dark, even when the games may not be great over this Christmas break, this finals break. We have shows almost every single night on Field of 68 after dark. We are presented, as always, by BetMGM. I'm Jeff Goodman. Thanks to Michael LaTulip, Justin Jackson, our producer, Dagan Hughes, Trevor Valise, Connor Herrick, and even Bobby Doster, whatever the hell he's doing. We'll see you tomorrow.